Welcome to the podcast studio on the third floor of Anderson Hall for episode 1 of Keeping It Classy College Edition. I'm your host, Harmon Johnson. Across the way, McKenna Bliss. We have a great first show lined up for you, so we hope you enjoy. Let's dive right in. McKenna, what do we got? What do we got going on today? Episode 1, you know?
I thought we could start off by introducing you and me as your host. So just kind of explain like your major, interests, whatever you feel like talking about.
Yeah?
You can go first.
Yeah, you want me to go first?
Yeah.
All right. Well, my name's Harmon Johnson. I am a double major of sports media and also broadcasting here at UNL. And, you know, I really do a lot here. I'm a member of Husker Vision. I am a co-JMC ambassador here. I'm also a play-by-play and color announcer for both KRNU and Big Ten Plus. So I do quite a bit here on the college scene. So it's quite a workload. But yeah, I find time to do a podcast here, I guess.
All right, and I'm McKenna Bliss. I'm an elementary education major. Eventually, I want to become an elementary teacher or a teacher in general. I'm not really sure yet. College is a time where you decide, I guess. I currently work at a daycare, and I also obviously attend UNL, but I will be transferring to UNK at the end of the semester. I know, I'm so sorry. But yeah, that's me.
And we have listed on here, you're also a greenhouse enthusiast.
Oh, yeah. I absolutely love greenhouses. I want to own one after college is done. Or
really?
Before college is done.
Really?
I don't know.
Is that just because, like, you're a plant person or, like, what?
Oh, yeah. You know, you grow up in, like, a small town agriculture community. You just kind of pick up that ag stuff, you know?
All right. Well, we've got a great show here for you in episode number 1, and we thought since this is, you know, staying classy, we're going to keep it classy. We're going to talk about our college life here a little bit because, you know, graduation coming down the way for some of the high school seniors, some of those people that we know back home. And we thought we'd give you all some college advice from the perspective of the freshman. I mean, we talk a lot, you hear a lot about, you know, college life in general, but you know, it's hard to hear it unless you've actually experienced it. So
definitely,
we got some tips for you.
Yeah, so I think we're to start off with like some general college advice.
Mm-hmm.
So we have I think we have 5 tips here.
Okay.
And we'll just like share a few experiences of like why this tip is important
Mm-hmm.
and what you will get out of this tip if you choose to follow it. If you don't, then
sucks to be you. No, I'm
don't
just
say
kidding.
We didn't warn you. So our first tip, in that first week, it's really important to get out of your dorm. Usually during the first week of colleges, they'll have like a welcome week for the new students, have different events. I think for our first week, there was like I don't even remember all the events, but it gives you
there were a lot.
There were a lot of events, and I know me and Harmon went to a few of those events, and it definitely gives you a good chance to just branch out, get to know people from your dorm or just around campus, get to know people from your major. Gives you a chance to just kind of find people so that your first week is a little bit less lonely because that first week is going to be rough. Like it's just going to be rough.
It's going to feel extremely awkward moving from, you know, wherever you're from into this college environment. And I know me personally, it was just like, okay, when does my new life start here? Because it's a really hard decision to like figure out, okay, do I want to go out now? Do I want to like try and figure out what I want to do? Like,
yeah,
it's crazy.
And it's also hard because like your whole life when you're in high school, you are always told like what to do. You have strict rules and things to follow from your parents. And then when you're in college, like it's all up to you. You decide when you go to bed, you decide what you get to do. You don't have to tell your parents like where you're going unless like, you know, usually you don't have to tell your parents everything about what you're doing. And so it's definitely different. Like you're not having your parents like tell you what to do. Like you get to make those decisions. So I think just like getting out of your dorm gives you an opportunity to branch out and feel a little bit less lonely on campus because that first week is going to be like you're gonna be crying, you're gonna be sad, like you're gonna miss your family, you're gonna want to go home. But getting out of your dorm and at least going to those events and trying to branch out and meet new people will help you feel the slightest bit less lonely.
Yeah, it's definitely a transition period. It's hard to figure out what you want to do and where you want to go. But I just lost my slideshow, but that's okay. You didn't see it.
Our second tip is to just get involved on campus, and by getting involved on campus, you're going to help to like branch out and find different interests of yours. So I know for like me and Harmon, we were both on a sand volleyball team and an indoor volleyball team through the campus intramurals. And that was just a great way to branch out, meet new people, and just like, I don't know, it was just so much fun. It was so much fun to just like be with people who also share a common interest of volleyball. And by that, you also like, I don't know, Harmon, you're distracting me.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Having some technical issues over here, but
That's okay. You can put it back through
yeah.
later. But yeah, getting involved on campus, there are so many, like every college has so many different clubs, sports, and things to do. Like I know for UNL, we have like a squirrel watching club. We have like, I could pull it up really fast, but like UNL has so many clubs for people who have different interests of literally anything you can think of. And if they don't have a club for you, you can start your own club, obviously. And a lot of colleges are the same. So branching out, trying something new, even if you don't think that it's like a club that you're going to stick with, it's a great opportunity for you to meet new people.
Yeah, totally. It's definitely an opportunity to meet that environment, that new group of people, because obviously unless, you and your friends are coming to the same place, you're not going to know really anybody.
Yeah, for sure. But are there any other clubs that you're a part of?
I do a lot with like the sports broadcasting people here. I'm not part of a specific club, but I will say that my involvements are just, I count them as clubs almost. I mean, I did intramural sports. There are clubs for like journalists, but I haven't gotten to be a part of any of them yet. So
yeah. So getting involved on campus will also help you find some different interests, especially since like, I don't know, you're going to be questioning everything when you come to college, especially me. I came to college and I was like, I don't know if my major is the right major for me. I don't know if this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. So just like finding people who can also like talk you through those decisions is really helpful. And getting involved on campus obviously just like fixes that issue.
Yeah.
So
tip number 3?
Yes, map out your classes before you go on the first day.
Do you have experience with that? Or?
No, I did end up mapping out my classes except for one class, and then I could not find that class, and like 5 minutes before that class I was like freaking out because I knew I was in the right building, but the building has like 4 different actual departments, and I was looking. In the beginning, I was a criminology major, so I was looking for the criminology building, but there's only one single staircase that will take you to it.
Oh, no.
And there's like 4 elevators in this building. There are multiple staircases, but only one of those staircases will actually take you up to the correct floor, and there was no signs around that were telling me like where to go.
Oh, no.
So it was a nightmare, and then I showed up late on the first day, and that obviously puts a bad taste in the professor's mouth. So it was really embarrassing. So mapping out your classes like that first week that you get there will definitely be really helpful, and I don't know, it'll make you
I didn't have too much trouble finding my classes. A lot of them were in the same general area, and a lot of them I had the same class with the same people, so I guess I didn't have probably near as hard of a time as you did. But it definitely is a helpful tip to try and at least know where you're going before you try and go there. So it's I would agree that you should map out your classes.
It was stressful that first day, trying to find where to go. But anyways, tip number 4. Be mindful of sharing your space, especially now. Like most people in college will have one room and a roommate. I don't have that experience. I do have roommates, but they're suite mates because I have my own room.
Okay.
But most people will live in a dorm that is like 2 beds, 1 room, either a communal shower or a shared shower.
Right.
So just be mindful of sharing your space. Like, be aware that your space is not just your space. It is also your roommate's space. So you need to like pick up after yourself.
Right.
You need to tell people if you're having people over. Like,
and something I've noticed is like it depends on who you room with. Like some people like to be messy. I'll be honest. Like I've seen people's rooms. It's like, how do you live in this?
Yeah, I definitely have too. But I don't know, just kind of being mindful and aware that like you're sharing your space with a roommate, and it's difficult, especially since you probably lived in a room, like you had your own room your whole life. It's a huge thing to adjust to, but also being mindful of your own space means like not bringing absolutely everything that you own
Oh, yeah.
to your dorm. You do
Yeah.
not have enough storage for that.
Yeah, I think we'll touch on that later in the show.
I
But
think we
yeah, that's a big thing about minding your shared space is just the fact that you have to realize that just because it's your room doesn't mean it's not someone else's room also. And that's a
Yeah.
big difference unless you shared a room with your sibling growing up.
Yeah.
Like,
But even then, it's a little bit different. Like, you come into college and you probably don't know too awful much about that person unless you're like rooming with your best friend. But yeah, it's a huge like adjustment to have to share your space.
I could not imagine like living traditional. I live in the suites over here, so
Yeah.
I mean I can't imagine living traditional. But like it's very similar. It's very similar.
I visited people who live in like traditional style rooms, and I was just like, oh, I don't know if I could do that. And that sounds like so awful because like, you know, like a lot of people do that, and yeah, I personally could not, but props to people who do.
Yeah.
And props to the future people who will be living like that.
If you're coming traditional, just beware. It's not as much space as you think it is.
No, it's like a shoebox.
Wow, how nice to put it. Moving
I mean,
on.
it is.
Moving on. Tip number 5. Final tip.
You know, I wish I would have taken this tip, but get to know some of your professors, not all of them, but like some of your professors kind of, I don't know, answers a few questions in class that you feel confident answering. That will help build your relationships with your professors. Go to their office hours if you have a question. Like, don't feel bad about utilizing class time and like getting the most out of your education, because like at this point you are paying for your education. You get what you put out. So I think building relationships with professors not only like helps you feel more confident in your education and helps you establish like a relationship with your professor where like you feel confident in going back and forth and asking questions when you need clarification, but they also can, like, professors have a repertoire of opportunities at their disposal for you.
Mm-hmm.
And they will offer them to you if they feel as though you've built a good relationship with them.
Yeah, just speaking for me personally, I mean, my journalism field it's extremely about who you know.
Yeah.
So just the fact that I've been able to network with those professors and talk to them, and I've been given some early job opportunities, some different internship opportunities, stuff like that, just because those professors knew who I was. So yeah, that's a huge thing. You know, we talk about gaming the system a lot when you hear about college, but it really isn't gaming the system. Like, yeah, you might get some better grades or some extensions on some deadlines, but in reality, it's just a benefit to you that you know somebody in that kind of position.
Yeah.
So,
And I think that applies to a lot of different majors as well. And even if at the very basic level, if you have a relationship with a professor, that could be a potential letter of recommendation in the future for a future job. So like, even at the very basic level, having a little bit of a relationship with your professor will help you in the long run. It'll make you feel more confident in your education, at least. And that's what I've found out. Like, one of my professors offered me a really cool like field trip study session.
Nice.
Which I just like, that just like blew my mind. I was like, oh my gosh, like,
Yeah.
building a relationship with your professor really does pay off. So yeah, that was something I learned this semester. I did not do it as much last semester, but going along with that tip, I think, yes, ask questions in class, or answer questions and ask questions in class, but
But there's a
only
but.
ask the questions that are beneficial to the whole class. Do not be that one person in class who is trying to outsmart the professor by asking like a 400-word essay question.
Mm-hmm.
That is what office hours are for. That is not what class time is for. And I do not want to hear your question if that's what you're going to do.
please, if you, whatever institution you go to, there are people, and especially in your big lecture classes, that are just there because attendance is sometimes part of the grade. Don't be that person that like has a question every time the instructor is like, do you have questions? Stay after class and answer and ask that question.
Or just go to their office hours.
Or just go to office hours. Believe me, we don't want to sit there longer than we have to. I'm in a class right now that I don't want to be at, but I have to be because attendance is a huge part of the grade. And so I'm just like, whenever someone asks a question, it's like, do you not feel the same way? Like, this class is literally bonkers. I don't want to be here. Like, oh my God. I get upset just thinking about it.
I also get upset thinking about it. Like, that's why I just had to say it. Like, I don't think that, I don't know. There's a few people really do that in college, but
But don't be one of those people.
But don't be one of those people, because it not only, sometimes it will make the professor mad.
Yes.
Number one, I've seen professors get upset about questions like that. And it definitely makes your classmates mad because you are wasting their time.
Mm-hmm.
Ask a question that is beneficial to the whole class. Don't ask a question just to make the professor know that
You feel like you're smart.
Smarty pants. Anyways. So, do you have any stories that kind of relate to the advice that we've shared?
You know, we talk about like college stories. The advice that I have with the stories that we've kind of led into, my only real story, it has to go with like that first week on campus. My parents, had just finished like helping me unpack and stuff like that. And we finally got in, and I just remember sitting in my room and I was like, now what? I'm sitting there basically by myself because my roommate went to go to an event over at one of the frat houses, and I was just sitting there watching The Simpsons, and I was like, now what?
Yeah.
And I think I actually, it was the first night I invited you invited yourself to my room, but I kind of pseudo invited you, and we just we hung out because we didn't know what to do. And that's one of the reasons the piece of advice is go out and meet people, is because we're great friends, but you're not always going to have those people.
Yeah, it's very true. I was going to also tell that story of, because I had moved in before Harmon, and I was just sitting in my dorm, and I was like, man, I wonder what Harmon's doing. So I texted him, and he's like, I'm moving in right now. And I was like, okay, I can come help. I just kept being like, please hang out with me because I'm bored. But yeah, it's hard. And that first night, you're going to cry. You're going to want to call your mom.
Don't
do it. Because I remember I called my mom and I cried for 2 hours straight and then couldn't sleep because I was like, I want to go home so bad. Don't call your mom.
It's
Wait
real.
a few days.
It's real.
It's hard. And nothing will ever prepare you for that transition. Even if you think, oh my God, I am so excited. I am so ready to go to college.
Mm-hmm.
No, you're not. No, you're not. You're never going to be ready. But
first-hand experience here. We know it firsthand that it is not an easy transition to get over that first week. Mm-hmm. And then once you get into a routine of classes, it's pretty easy, but there's still nights where you might not have anything going on and you're just now what?
College is not like high school either, where when you're bored, you can just call up your friend who has the same exact class schedule, same exact extracurriculars as you, and they're not busy. That's not how college is. It's a lot of trying to find scheduling times around each other. Mm-hmm. And especially with this podcast, we had a lot of conflicting schedules here. So we had to schedule a time where we actually were both available, which is not easy. And that's another thing where finding those friends that have some of the same interests as you, maybe the same major as you, maybe work the same place as you,
right.
Knowing that they have a similar schedule to me, we can sometimes hang out. But college is not like high school at all. A lot less drama depending on who you surround yourself with.
Right. That's very
but
true.
A lot less drama. It's not nearly as busy. I think we'll start talking about the misconceptions about college, and that'll kind of clear some things up.
Yeah, the point that you brought up that, college is nowhere near, or high school is nowhere near like college, brings us to a great point here in the college misconceptions. Stuff that everyone tells you about college, but they don't bother to clarify the misconceptions around college.
And everyone has a different experience. So even some of these misconceptions that we list, they might not apply to you. A lot of college is completely, like I said, college is what you put in. Mm-hmm. Whatever work you put into it is the work you're going to get out. So I don't know. It's hard to define college and share an experience when not everyone's going to have the same experience. But these are just some common misconceptions that I think would apply to most people.
I think this is a list of pretty common misconceptions that I think a lot of people run into when they arrive at college. So we'll get started here with the first one. And so the question a lot of people talk about isn't college class just harder?
I personally would say that is 100% not true. Especially, as we said, if you build those relationships with your professors, your college class is actually going to be 10 times easier. Mm-hmm. And honestly, there will be times when, I don't feel like going to class. Okay, skip. You can do that. You can do that. But a lot of the classes, no, they're really not that much harder. Unless you're, the hardest major ever.
Yeah, I have
then
two
no.
engineering majors in my suite, and those guys stay up until midnight, like every night doing homework. Like my roommate, he'll keep me up some nights doing homework. I'm just like, what are you working on? We came back from spring break, and it was the day before classes started. He's already working on stuff late at night. I'm like, what are you working on? Like, there's no class.
It obviously depends on your major if class is going to be harder, but a lot of professors are going to be really chill if you have a family emergency or you're sick or you just, I don't know, if you ask them, they'll be like, yeah, I can extend a deadline a little bit, like whatever. Like as long as you obviously like put effort into your class, it's not any harder than high school, I would say. It's actually, I find it a lot easier because the professors are chill and understand that, like, okay, you're real.
We have a life.
Like, you're a person, you know? Well, so I don't think it's any harder.
Moving into the difficulty of classes, the second misconception we found is a lot of people say, oh, you'll be super busy at college because, you got all these higher level classes.
No. It's obviously, once again, it depends on it depends on what you schedule. Like what you put in your schedule. So most, to be a full-time student is 12 credit hours.
Correct.
Most people take about 15. But even then, you have hour-long breaks in between classes. If you don't have a job, you'll have like half days where you're doing absolutely nothing. Like I find that I was so much busier in high school than what I am here.
Yeah. I feel kind of the same way. Like I'm as busy as I make myself be. Like it's not. I could choose to not do as much as I do and be perfectly on the same path to graduate as everybody else.
Yeah.
Me personally, I just like to be busy, like I almost work better under pressure. Like I'll procrastinate something.
I think it's because we were the two kids who would do like absolutely every extracurricular in high school, and now we're just like used to that wake up at 6 a.m. grind schedule, but like I don't know. College is what you schedule it. So like you have complete control over your class schedules.
Yeah, that's a great thing too is you can schedule, like if you're not a morning person, you put in your little schedule, you're like, I don't want to be up before 10 o'clock. And
I know you did that.
I did that. I have a potential schedule next semester that's like, I don't want to do anything on Friday, and it works. They'll find a way that it works. So
yeah, it's really nice. Like, I don't know, scheduling your own, like making yourself as busy as you want to be, like what you said. That's a really good way to put it. And also like even having like a part-time job, like most of the time when you tell your boss like, oh, I'm in college, they'll be like, okay.
No.
Like they won't schedule you over classes. I mean, it depends on where you work, but like that's how it is for me. Like I don't get scheduled. I pick my schedule at work and I work how much I want to work, which is really nice.
That is nice.
So yeah, it's
well, and if you have an on-campus job like I do, like you're working in between your classes or after class, with the athletic department, I get to work, all the sporting events, and then with my ambassador role, I could go to class from 1 to 2, and then we have a tour coming at 3, and I'm already there. So
yeah.
It works itself out. It's definitely, you got to find what's right for you, but once you do, it's smooth sailing. So let's lead in now. Third misconception that a lot of people see. You might be able to attest to this one better.
Oh, I can attest to this one.
Everyone, I can't remember. Do we say this is lone? Like you're gonna feel lonely, or
well, I think it's more or less like you're gonna. I guess lonely isn't necessarily the best way to put it, but you're gonna have to learn to develop a sense of independence, which may make you feel lonely. Like I know for me, like I'm a very social person. When it comes to like hanging, like just being around a person, like not necessarily like talking all the time, but like just like having another person's presence.
Okay.
Like I don't really like being alone. So coming to college and like learning how to be independent, like actually go to the dining hall by myself, go to Target by myself, go literally anywhere by myself. Like it was a huge like, oh my gosh, I don't want to do this. This is so scary.
Do you ever feel like guilty when you go somewhere by yourself? Like I get that sense of like guilt sometimes. Like I'll go to Walmart and buy something that I need.
Yeah.
And I'll just feel like, oh my gosh, why did I go buy that without asking like my parents?
Sometimes, like I sometimes remember like, oh my gosh, did I tell my parents that I was going to Walmart? Like, but I'm like, wait, I'm in college. I don't have to do that anymore. But like sometimes, but I don't really get like, I don't know. I don't really have that as bad anymore. Like in the beginning, I was like texting my mom all the time, like I'm going to Target. Telling her like everything that I was doing. But now I don't really do it as much anymore, but it's just really good to like develop a sense of independence kind of early on, because doing things alone is kind of a scary task. Like, especially like I remember going to the dining hall for the first time alone. I was like, oh no, I will never go to the dining hall alone. I would rather eat chips in my dorm room alone than go and eat by myself. Everyone's going to stare at me. No.
Well, and one misconception I think people think about when regarding loneliness is you're like, oh, I'm going to want to go back home, or, you know, there's a difference between updating your parents on what's going on and like depending on them for all your advice. But like for me, I'll admit this, if you're watching, Mom, I'm sorry, but when I was home over winter break, I kept thinking to myself, man, when am I going back to college?
Really?
Yeah, it was like, I'm here at home, which is home. You know, I'm comfortable. I'm here. I don't have to do near as much. But I found myself thinking like, when am I going back to college? Because college, after you get into the routine, it feels like home, in quotes.
That's kind of what I was like, you saying this kind of made me think. It's like, when you go back to your hometown and go back to your house, this is going to be so sad to hear, but home will never, ever feel like home again. Like, I go back to my hometown and I'm like, what is this place? Like, I just like I feel out of place, and I grew up there. Right. So like showing up to my hometown, I'm like, this is awkward. Like, this is embarrassing. What if anybody sees me? And like, home will never feel the same again. Like, you're going to feel more comfortable at college after being there for a few months than you ever will feel back at home. And it's a sad truth. And it's something that nobody warned me about. No. And like, even going back home and like seeing my own room, I'm like, oh, this isn't my room anymore. Like, I don't live
you
here
feel
anymore.
like you feel like your dorm room has become your room. Like, and then for some people, when they move out of their freshman year and they move into their own apartment, stuff like that, that even solidifies it even farther, because like, okay, now I'm paying for this property. Yeah. And it's my or my family's property. And now, you know, it is my home.
Yeah. Like, I was talking about that with my friend the other day, because she actually has moved to Denver.
Okay. And
she was home for the weekend too when we were both in our hometown. And she was like, man, it's just like so weird being here. Like, I show up here every time and I'm like, it just doesn't feel the same. And I'm like, no, I totally, like, I understand it. Like, your home's not going to be your home anymore. It's not going to feel like your home anymore. Yeah. It's going to be uncomfortable going home sometimes. And like, obviously I love going home and seeing my parents, but I don't like being uncomfortable. Right. So I'll only go down there for like days at a time. And it's nothing to do with my parents, obviously, but it's just like, I just don't feel like I belong there anymore. So.
Well, moving away from that kind of sad topic, there's also a misconception that everyone's like, oh, once you go to college, your career path is it's set, it's in motion, it's time to go. Let's talk a little bit about that, because I know you personally, you've switched majors multiple times. I know for myself, I've kind of been on the same track, but I've also kind of added and subtracted stuff. So let's talk about career path.
Well, I mean, for me, it's just like I'm still struggling with this today. I don't know what exactly I want to do in my life. There are so many different options and stuff, and I'm like, oh, well, I could do this. Like, that sounds really fun, but like this sounds also really fun. So right now I'm an elementary teacher, but I'm like, you know what? Journalism sounds really cool. Like, I can do journalism, and like, oh, well, maybe marketing. Marketing sounds kind of cool. And like, you do not have to, like, obviously, if you come into college with a major picked, great. Your first 2 years, you're probably just going to be taking like required college classes anyways that will be required across majors. So if you decide, well, you know, I don't really want to do this major that I picked out my freshman year. I want to do this major. That's fine. Well, and you are able to change your major at any point.
Well, and I can attest, for me personally, this is something unique about the College of Journalism here at UNL, is we actually start interweaving our major classes like from your first semester. So like for our journalism students, we come in, we take like 3 journalism classes, but then like 3 other classes. And then we kind of mix and mash that together. So like depending on your major, you might start taking major specific classes right away.
Yeah, that's very true.
Like the bigger majors, you're probably going to take a lot of your general eds, but like some of these more niche majors like journalism, we get to get going right away. So it's more about what you pick. And the best advice I can give as an ambassador for my college, and also for just a college student in general, try a little bit of everything, because you're never going to know you don't like something until you try it. And that's what those like first couple classes are for, is take something that you didn't think you were going to want to do, because you might fall in love with it. Like, I never thought I was going to want to do any of the like technical behind the scenes stuff for the journalism majors, but then I went into the control room for our news show and I started running the teleprompter. I'm like, all right, this is kind of cool, you know? Yeah.
Because I was also going to kind of say that, like, you can also come into college as an undeclared major or undecided, or I think it's undeclared is what they call it.
Hey, I think it's undeclared.
But And usually what they do if you're an undeclared major is they will just have you try like whatever class catches your eye.
A lot of
whatever
intro
seems
classes, yeah.
interesting. And like even if you do have a declared major, but you're not like 100% set on it. Like I know you're very set on your major, but I'm over here like I'm like 90% sure this is what I want to do, but there's like 10% that's like maybe you should branch out and try a little bit. So that's kind of what I'm doing right now. Is like this semester I have a bunch of random classes. Like I have literature, geology, history, plant science,
Okay.
4 completely unrelated topics. And what surprised me the most was coming into this semester, I did not want to take geology. It's for my scholarship though.
Okay.
But I did not want to take geology. And now I find that it's one of my favorite classes and I love it.
Interesting.
Never thought I would like geology. Didn't think I was a rock gal, but I guess I am. Like I don't know. Like I don't know. There's so many things to do here and so many different majors and so many different like classes you can take to figure out what you like.
Right. And speaking of so many things, here's another misconception that you have to bring a lot of stuff. Don't bring everything, please.
The best tip that I have for this is like when you're first coming to college, pack your like summer clothes, shorts, t-shirts, whatever, few sweatshirts, few leggings. And then when you go home for fall break, bring back your winter coat, bring back some of your winter items, and then like vice versa, switch it around when you like go back for the semester and winter break. Like don't bring everything. You don't have space.
No, we talked about shared space earlier.
You get like one dresser. You get a teeny tiny closet. You do not have enough space for absolutely everything you own, especially like huge furniture. And also when you move out, you're not going to want to move all that out. You're going to be like, oh, this is going to be terrible.
Yeah, you got to remember what you bring into the dorm room, you're going to have to carry out eventually. And it's inevitable that when you come to college, you go to those first few events, those first couple of weeks, and they're going to give you T-shirts and handouts and different
So
kind of
many
items.
different things, yeah.
And so you're going to have to pick and choose what you want to bring because,
Definitely.
like for me personally, I left my heated blanket at home until like fall break because it's like it's going to be warm until November. I don't need this, and it worked out fine because then I brought like my sweatshirts back and took all my shorts home. You know, it's definitely you got to plan some of that out, but. Something else is if you can start like I hate to say this, but if you can start moving out before you're like completely moved in, it's a great resource.
Yeah, kind of what I'm doing like right now, especially since it's the second semester and we only have like a month and a half, if that left, is what I've been doing since the beginning of the second semester is I will every time I go home, which it's about like once to twice a month because I have a lot of stuff going on at home and my parents just I don't know. They need me to like come home and sign things or get my oil changed because I don't know. I'm just a girl, okay? But what I'll do is I will pack a large tote and every time I go home, I will take that tote home, unpack it, bring it back. It'll just make the moving out process like so much easier if you start bringing stuff that you don't use at college home with you.
Yeah.
So that's my tip.
Yeah. Great tip. Great. We should have put that in the beginning because, you know, that's a tip.
Yeah.
Here's another misconception is that everything's taken care of for you, but I'll tell you that is not true.
That is not true. Okay. I specifically wrote take care of your health. Like what they didn't tell me when I came into college was that those first 2 weeks you're probably going to get sick.
Yeah.
That is a space that multiple people have lived in. Probably doesn't clean as thoroughly as it could be cleaned. And like the vents especially, disgusting. So I got what they call the dorm flu, where you get sick for like a week or so. And it was awful. But luckily I packed medicine. I got a little first aid kit for graduation. So that was really nice. But make sure you bring like medicines you're probably going to need throughout the semester. And
over the counter stuff.
Yeah, over the counter stuff is great. But also usually there's a health center at each university or there's at least a doctor's office close. Because I know in November, since I work at a daycare, it's like disease central. You will catch everything in the first year of you working there. So I've had influenza, COVID, stomach flu.
Nice.
Hand, foot, mouth.
Oh, geez.
I'm trying to think of the other one that babies get all the time. I'll think of it later. But I remember in November last year, or last semester, I guess, I got the stomach flu and I had thrown up 13 times throughout the night. And I was like, oh my gosh, Mom, like I think I'm like really sick. Cause I like when I get stomach flu, I don't throw up that much. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm dying. I need my mom. I was like, Mom, can you make a doctor's appointment for me? And she's like, girl, no. Like, you can make your own doctor's appointment. You're 19 years old now.
Right.
So just be prepared that you may need to make a doctor's appointment alone. You may need to make a dentist appointment alone. You may need to take your car to the mechanic alone. Like, it's hard.
Yeah,
but
it's hard to think of that transition as your own because it's probably been taken care of for you, or at least you've had help along the way.
Yeah.
My only like true sickness scare that I had, it was like around that time, actually, flu season. But I remember I was up until like 3 a.m. I was supposed to help with a video shoot for something that morning. And I was laying in my dorm room, and for some reason, the street lights outside, I had the blinds closed, but the street lights outside were just so much brighter than they normally are. And I went into our shared living room for my suite, and I just laid, because it's completely dark in there. There's no lights.
Yeah.
And I laid there, and I finally fell asleep for like 5 hours. And that was probably the worst I had felt since I had been to college. But I don't get sick very easily. And when I do, like, I typically power through it. But it's definitely a change. Like when you get sick by yourself for the first time, you're like, all right, now what? I mean, I'm going to take Tylenol.
There's no one to take care of you but yourself. Like you will have to.
I mean, if you have nice roommates, maybe they'll share like some NyQuil or something. Like we've got a bug actually going around my room right now, and
that's the worst too. Is no one tells you that like when you live in college, if one person on your floor is sick, the whole floor is going to get sick. And I kind of feel bad since I work at the daycare. I bring home illness after illness. Like it's like a rotating schedule. I think like RSV was the other one I was thinking of. I had RSV, which that's not fun if you were wondering. But it's like a rotating clockwork of the kids getting influenza, RSV, chickenpox, and stomach flu just like over and over. And I kind of feel bad because like when my floor gets sick, it's usually my fault. Like usually they get sick with what I had, so I kind of feel bad. But like that's another thing to be mindful of is like, you're in a close proximity, close proximity to each other. So, I don't know. There's not much you can do to like prevent it.
No, there's not. And I mean, the best stuff we can say is obviously like wash your hands. Don't be like a disgusting person.
Well,
like take a shower.
Yeah, when you get to your dorm, I'd say the first thing you should probably do is like wipe down all the surfaces with like Clorox wipes. Like, clean your vents because those are dusty, gross. Like you're gonna have respiratory problems if you don't. Like I did. So
yeah, I can say I think my room actually blames me for the bug that's going around because I got sick like right at the end of spring break, and I came back to call games, and then one of my suite mates came back from a ski trip and he was sick, and it was like, you gave this to me, and I was like, okay, maybe it was because you're outside skiing, but no, anyway, it's probably my fault, but we can attest. Don't fear getting sick. It's gonna happen. Like you're gonna have to figure out how to do it though.
Yeah, definitely.
So we got one more segment here to talk about as we wrap up episode number 1. So something we want to do every time we chat is we want to send out a movie or a show recommendation because, you know, you're in college, you got nothing better to do when you got all your homework done, or even when you do have homework and you want to procrastinate like I do. Sit and watch something. So McKenna, what's your movie or show of the week?
So, okay. I decided that I watch a lot of shows, so it was hard for me to like narrow it down to one. But I decided that I wanted to talk about Murderville on Netflix because I absolutely adore that show. I think it's so funny. There's only one season, so it's definitely a bingeable show. Like you can sit down and like watch it in like 10. I don't even know how long the episodes are. It doesn't matter. But I love this show. So it basically, it's like, I don't even know how to explain this show. It's hard to explain. So basically, Will Arnett, he voices BoJack Horseman.
Lego Batman. Yes.
He's a Reese's commercial guy. Like, I love him. But he plays a cop in the show. I guess it's a detective more than a cop. And he'll bring on a celebrity guest partner. Everyone in the show has a script except for that celebrity guest partner. So I think like some celebrities he had on was like Conan O'Brien, Marshawn Lynch.
A football player?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I know. And they will like improvise their way through like the scripted investigation.
Okay.
And at the very end, the celebrity guest partner has to choose what suspect committed the murder. So it's actually very comedic. It's not like your typical like Law and Order, CSI,
it's not like an
any
actual...
of that. No, it's not an actual like crime show.
Okay.
It's like SNL.
Oh,
is what I like to compare it to.
I could watch that. That sounds like fun.
It is fun.
So I guess my movie recommendation it's going to be a little bit more tame, I guess. It's I recently just watched Emperor's New Groove for the first time. I know, first time.
I don't think I've ever watched it either, so you're not the only one.
I love how aware that movie, like self-aware that movie is. Kronk is obviously my favorite character. He's just a funny guy. But the fact that Disney made a movie between the new animation and the Renaissance that was just like a comedy, like jackpot. Mm-hmm. I love it. And the self-awareness just gets me every time. Like there's one scene where Kronk like pulls down a map and is like, I don't know, by all accounts, it doesn't make sense. And it gets me every time. I've watched that scene so many times after watching the movie, and I'm just like, it's so funny for some reason. I don't get it. Maybe it's just because Patrick Warburton is also the voice of Joe Swanson.
That's very true.
And like I know him from Family Guy.
Yeah,
so
yeah, we love that.
It's definitely an interesting show. But,
all right.
Well, that'll about wrap up our podcast episode number 1. We've got a special guest joining us for episode number 2, so make sure to tune in again. I have it set that shows will be published on Friday mornings, so keep a lookout for that. Unless we state otherwise, that's probably going to change in the first couple episodes. Because
our college kids cut us a little bit slack.
Yeah. But anyway, thanks for listening in or watching, and we will be glad to have you the next time here on Keeping It Classy. That's McKenna Bliss across the way. I'm Harmon Johnson, and we will talk to you the next time.